Hi, everybody. It's Misty, Mandy, and Bridget again, back from Marriage, Motherhood, and Missions. And we are here chatting again about Jill Savage's book, No More Perfect Moms. Sorry, it's been a while. We had some vacations going on and some family time. And so we are back going to finish out the last two chapters of the book. So tonight we're going to start talking about No More Perfect Homemaking. And the first question, Bridget, is, what do you struggle with the most? Making meals, decorating, or extending hospitality?
Um, for me, it would be more decorating. I am not an artsy person by any means. I am very minimalist. I don't even think that's a word, but I don't like a lot of stuff. Like everything plain Jane. My brain is gone, guys. So for me, it would be decorating. I think things are really cute that I see other people do, and I think, oh man, I could do that. But then at the end of the day, I'm really not going to do it because that's just a lot of work. And I like things plain Jane. I'm just a plain person.
Each one is so different for me. I think I found myself struggling in each one. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So we bought our house a year ago, and when I came in, I had bought all the decorations. And before I moved in the house, I said I want it painted because I knew that if I waited and didn't get it done, it would still be left to do. And we did our downstairs very quickly. But the upstairs bedrooms are still kind of waiting for decorations. They're bought, but they're not up. So I would say that I love decorating. I like it, but I'm also in opposite. I don't change very well. So once it's done, it's done. So I'm not one of those that redoes a room in her house every couple of years. I decorate for the holidays. I like to do that. I think it's fun for my kids. But I'm not one that's going to change my dining room decor next year. But my heart is, and the reason I think I struggle with them, I want to do them all. I feel like I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and so just like, well, I want my house to be beautiful, and I want my meals to be beautiful, and I want to have people over to have a beautiful meal in my beautiful house. And so I think for me that all three are so connected that I struggle with each of them in different ways.
So for me, I love to decorate, but my mother always told me that I had a champagne taste on a water budget, and that's still true today. I could go pick out everything I wanted, and the money that I have would not pay for it, or even near close it. So I would have to say that I don't even really decorate very much at all. But I do also struggle with extending hospitality, which is very interesting for those of you that know that I am a Southern girl, like my sweet friends here. Down south, it's pretty hospitable, and everybody comes over and just walks through the door without knocking most of the time and says, hey, I'm here. Well, that doesn't happen where I live, and if I did it to someone here, they would probably kick me out. So I think I've gone to the other extreme of just not having people over, because that's more how things are done here. So I guess I struggle with both decorating and hospitality. Making meals, my husband's a plain Jane steak and potatoes, and give me my meat and my potatoes and I'm a happy guy. So I kind of stick to the same meals that he likes all the time. We kind of rotate meals a lot so that he gets what he likes all the time. So Bridget, what do you think is at the heart of your struggles for decorating, making meals, and extending hospitality?
I think for me, mine would just be pure laziness. I don't want to decorate because I don't feel I have the time. And then also, I don't really want to put the finances into it, nor do I really have the finances put into it. And then also, I have a house full of kids. It's going to get broke. And I know it's going to get broke. So I figure once they move out, maybe I'll decorate the house. Maybe. Probably not. I'll be too old by then to even think about decorating it. But, I might be rich by then, and I can just hire an interior decorator and say, let's do something. But that would be for me. That's the heart of my struggle on that. It's not that I don't want things to look nice. It's just that I know that it's not going to stay nice for longer than 2 or 3 weeks. I have boys who like to take things apart to figure out how they work. It's, not going to work for me.
I think there's two things at the heart of my struggle. One would obviously be time and resources. Like the girls, I don't have endless resources, and thanks to some stores that are out there, decorating things can be fairly inexpensive, and I've tried really hard to use my coupons and find things when they're on sale. And so I know that it can be done. And what I do have, I feel like I've done on a good budget without breaking the bank. But time is a lot of it. Like I have a wall in my living room that has one picture on it. And the goal for that wall is to eventually be kind of like a picture collage kind of thing that you would see on Pinterest. But the time to do it just isn't there. Because I'm really busy. I work outside the home. I have 3 kids. I'm in the middle of an adoption. I now have a father-in-law that I help take care of. Not that he's overly time-consuming, but it is a part of my life now. And so there's a lot of things that that prevent me from having the time to do some of those things. That being said, I think another reason why I don't do some of them is a discontentment issue. When I go to decorate, and I know we kind of keep talking on this decorating thing, because I think we all make meals. We have to make meals. We're moms. So whether we make something out of a box, make something from scratch, or go pick it up from the store, it happens. And so I don't put a lot of stock in comparison there. But as far as the decorating thing goes, I think we're quick to play the comparison game, and I think we're quick, and I know I'm quick to play comparison and to play not being content. And when I moved from a very, very small home and moved into my new home, and my new home is an extreme blessing and a tool from God, and it's not tiny. I feel like I have plenty of space for my family. But like one piece that I'm thinking of specifically, I have a piano that's in my living room that I really would love to not have in my living room. And so I'm discontent because I wish I had a room that could be an office or that could have my piano in it. And so I think the more I get into the decorating and the home decor, and even sometimes the extending hospitality or accepting somebody else's hospitality, the more I struggle with being discontent with the areas and the spaces that God has given me. So I think that's at the heart of why I don't do more, because I know I can't really do what I want to do. So just even fixing what I have sometimes is a struggle.
For me, I think since the extending hospitality is my biggest thing, I think that I always feel like my home isn't good enough. My husband's self-employed fisherman with multiple boats in multiple places, and he does all the maintenance and all the fishing on them. And so he's not home a lot, and so there are things that I just can't do because I just can't do them. It requires his help, or he does it by himself. And so there are things that I can't do, but then there are things I can do to help out. But I just feel like my home isn't good enough sometimes. It feels like it's in a constant state of repair and work, and there are projects that are still waiting, and I just can't do them alone, and he can't do them alone, and so they just don't get done. So I think, like you said, Mandy, it becomes a state of discontentment because we feel like we're comparing to someone else. We wish we had something different, and, if only I could do that. And, we've got to, like you said, we have to come to a place where we're content with what God's given us, the blessing that he's given us. There's a roof over our heads. And, I did extend hospitality this last week. We had my daughter's friend came over, and her mom actually came in my house, and it was actually okay. She didn't like make ugly faces at my house or anything. So it was actually a really good stepping point after having read this chapter. It's like, oh, see, even though my house isn't perfect, it still was nice to have someone come over. So I guess something I just kind of need to work through myself. But Bridget, can you share a time when you've been on the receiving end of hospitality? How did it make you feel?
Well, as you said, I'm from the South, so that hospitality and Southern women, they go hand in hand. But we used to, like 2 or 3 years ago, we went to this one church, and a group of us decided that we would start like bouncing from each house, and we would start having like a little social / Bible study type thing. Anyway, one that really stuck out to me was we went to this lady named Donna's house. That's right, I'm calling her out. Her house was like, oh, it was wonderful. Like, she had like all these little antique things, and I don't know, I was kind of scared to touch things because it looked like a little dollhouse, like you were inside it, because she didn't have kids. But it was also, I mean, she brought out like fine china pieces that she had gotten from like consignment shops and yard sales, so she had paid like 50 cents for them. But it was wonderful, and you felt like so connected to those people when we were doing those studies at all of their houses. We became like so connected, and we knew each other's business, and we knew so much about each other, and it was like a close friendship. We kind of faltered back from that now, but and we've kind of all went in crazy directions, and life just got really busy for everyone. But it actually, just the receiving of the hospitality, it makes you feel really good, and it makes you feel special for at least a little bit.
Well, I have two stories I want to share about hospitality. The first one, which kind of was where I felt like I learned hospitality, was we had the youth and college pastor at the church I grew up in. Him and his wife had their house open to us all the time. Their kids were like our little brothers and sisters, and they always, now the one thing they always said was, don't eat us at a house at home, stop somewhere and bring something with you. Because he was a pastor on a pastor's budget, and at least not any church I've ever gone to, the pastor doesn't make millions or drive Rolls Royces. So, they would always be like, if the food was going to be there, they'd let us know. But otherwise, sometimes she would have like a bake, something, baked for us or whatever. But often it was bring your own food and drink. But we were allowed to be there as late as we wanted. I think I stayed there till midnight, 2 o'clock sometimes. It was a safe place, and it was a warm place. And I would dog sit for these people. And I actually, 2 summers before I got married, I actually house sat for them. And their home was like my home. And I think true hospitality, like at its purest form, you get to that point where you are just so in and out of their home that it feels that way. But then the other one that I wanted to share was more recent, and this actually happened in my own home. And I think sometimes we forget that we can get hospitality in our own house. But over the past few weeks, my mother-in-law has passed away. And during that time, my sister came to stay with us to watch our children so that my husband and I could be there with my father-in-law, with my mother-in-law in her last days. And my house got really, really messy. We had come back from vacation, and so I still had vacation all over my house, suitcases, all kinds of stuff. And then my kitchen was a disaster, and things were just really not the way that my home normally is. I know I've shared before about my home. I've shared little spots in my house that aren't organized, but my house was really bad. And when my mother-in-law passed, my husband's best friend, they were on their way up from Florida, and they're like, well, we're coming, we're going to be there. And I'm like, these people are coming to my house, and now I have to give, I have to be prepared to, have food for them and a place for them to sleep and all these things. And my mom came over, and she cleaned my house for me, And then when my friend got here, she helped clean my house. And at times when things like that hit, know that you can be hospitable to somebody in their home. It doesn't always have to be in your own home. It can be the spirit of hospitality goes out beyond just having people into your home. It is a spirit of your heart. And um, so both of those times with my youth pastor, obviously I felt very welcomed and very loved and very encouraged to be there. And with my mom and my sister, or my husband's best friend, I call her my sister-in-law, but with them, I didn't feel judged, and I didn't feel there was at the beginning I felt like that. Oh, I'm a failure. My house is a disaster, and there's not a clean toilet in the house nor a clean towel, and that's hard. But God was gracious, and they extended love and hospitality to me and made my home hospitable again. And so that was a real blessing to me.
So for me, the most recent hospitality story that I have to share was a couple that we used to go to church with here in Maine, Allison and Dave, who actually worked with my dad when he lived up here in Maine, and they had us over, my husband and the kids and I, for Thanksgiving, and their parents were in town from out of state. Our pastor came over. All their kids were home, which one of them was in the military, and he actually ended up getting to come home for Thanksgiving. And so all of us got together, and it wasn't on Thanksgiving, but it was a big Thanksgiving Day party, that everybody got to come together, and it was the most fun night I think I've had probably here in Maine with friends. And it was like being back home, because they're good old Southern people like me, and so I fit right in with them. And it was like I was hanging out with aunts and uncles and cousins and everything, and my kids were hanging out with their, grandkids, and it was just an amazing time being pulled into someone else's family when your family is far away, and actually feeling like they are your family because you have that closeness. So that is definitely my one big moment where I remember how amazing it felt to be part of someone's family, even though they aren't blood family. It was one of those moments where you realize, it definitely isn't that blood is required to make family. It's, your friends can be your family. So it definitely is an amazing feeling. So, Bridget, how was homemaking handled in your family of origin? Did your mother model meal making, decorating, or hospitality for you?
Okay, well, I think I've said it before, maybe not. I had a weird childhood. My parents were divorced, and so I lived with my father for up till I was about, I think it was 13. And so I lived with primarily my grandmother and my father. So mainly my grandmother was one who did the molding, so to speak. My mother was out of the picture until I was about 13. Um, she did everything. The woman was phenomenal. She cooked, she cleaned, she sewed, she decorated. She may be why I don't like a lot of knickknacks and things like that, because she had way too many. She was all about the plugging it all up. I don't know. If you could bedazzle it, she would bedazzle it. If you could cram lace on it, it had to have lace. So I'm just not that way now. But she did phenomenal. She did everything because that's how she felt that a woman should do. She stayed at home. My father took care of her and me, so she took care of the house and all of its needs. She was very hospitable. I remember Jehovah Witnesses and things would come to our house, and she would invite them in, and she would give them coffee and cookies and tell them how they were wrong and whatnot. And it was quite odd, and I would just feel like, oh. And she did it in a nice Southern way, only a Southern woman can do, with a smile. It make you feel like you've done something great. So Now, my mother, when I moved in with her, things were like dramatically different. She doesn't like to do housework, and she doesn't like to do really modeling. She does things like in spurts. Like one week she might be all totally like OCD and decorative mode and Martha Stewart mode, and then after the news off, she's good. Um, she worked in a kitchen at a restaurant, so she didn't really cook at home either because she just didn't have time for all that. She didn't want to do it at home also. And hospitable, she wasn't really that hospitable either. Not that she was like a horrible person, because she's not. I love her. Um, but after she had been working with the public all day, the last thing she wanted to do was to spend time with a bunch of people. And so I remember her telling me many times, Bridget, get your crazy friends out of my house. I'm tired. And that was Mom. That's how she rolled. So I had two different perspectives in my childhood. One that showed how women were supposed to be hospitable and cooking and cleaning and just, the household diva. And then I had the other one who said, just go on, roll with it. It is what it is, we pizza.
Well, for my mom, kind of like Missy said earlier, we had maybe had a little bit of a wine budget on or a wine taste on water budget. We weren't very wealthy growing up, and so a lot of our decorations were just photographs or things that were gifts, for my grandmothers or things like that. My mom was always an amazing cook. She did sometimes she made up her own recipes. Like I said, being poorer, I wouldn't say we were like dirt poor, but we definitely went through some rough times. And some of my favorite meals today are meals that my mom, like one we have that we ask for often is we actually call it poor people food. It was chicken because chicken was always cheap, and noodles and a broth. It was kind of like a chicken noodle soup, but it was a little bit more hearty than that. And my brother would call it poor people food, just because that's what we had. And there's nothing wrong with that. But she made me learn to be inventive in the kitchen. And so the other thing was so she didn't do a lot of decorating, mainly pictures. She was a good cook. And as far as hospitality is concerned, we had people over, but again, we didn't have as much. And so sometimes it makes it hard to feel like you can open your home to other people, because if you can't put out a spread, and we are Southern, my family is, I live in the South, and so when you do have people over, it's usually the big meal or, cookies and juice and tea and stuff like that. Not like tea party, but like you have stuff, sweet tea. That's what we drink around here. But she didn't have, we didn't have a lot of resources for some of that stuff. But one thing my mom always did, and that I learned well from her, besides the inventive cooking, was our house was always open to teenagers. When I was a teenager, my house was the go-to house. We could come. I think I had people spend the night like every week, and kids from our church, even the guys, they wouldn't spend the night, but they would come over and hang out until it was time to go, and until my dad's like, get out, I'm going to bed. So our home was always a revolving door for teenagers, and it continued with my brother and my sister, and not always the church kids. I mean, sometimes some of the kids we brought home were not always, the perfect church kid type. And my mom was always, she was a second mom to a lot of teenagers. And so I think I learned that from her. And I think she influenced me in ways both good and bad. I think that I feel like I push a little more, because there were things that I feel like I wish she would have done. I wish she would have been more hospitable as far as meals and stuff. And we did have it sometimes. It's not that it never happened, but we try to have company over often. Our home is different. Our financial state is a little bit different, or a lot different. So things are different because of the makeup of my family and our situation. But one thing that I definitely feel like I learned for the better was that I want to be the house that the kids on the block want to go to. Not because I'm the cool mom that's going to do crazy stuff or allow crazy stuff to happen, but that my house is open and available. And so that was something my mom taught me that I'm really thankful for.
My mom and my grandmother lived in clean, decorated, and organized homes. My mom used to tell me stories of every Saturday her mom made them clean the house, the entire house, dusted, vacuumed, cleaned, everything. And so, yes, I had two wonderful models of women that took care of their families by making their meals, by decorating their homes, and by opening their homes by being hospitable. We were Southern women, and that's how we roll. And so I had the models before me. Where I lost it, I'm just not quite sure. I can handle the meal making. I can cook up what my husband wants to eat, and even then some. I like to test new things, and he kind of likes to keep things the same. Decorating, kids in the house, things get broken, just like Bridget said. Budget lacking, motivation lacking, hospitality, working on it. I don't really live in a block, Mandy. I totally love the idea of you opening your home to kids, and I would love to have that happen with my kids as they get older and become teenagers. But we don't really live near, like, we have neighbors, but they're older neighbors. There aren't kids around. So maybe we'll move in the future, and that would be really, really cool because I think that's really important for teenagers to have a place to go to. But yeah, so I definitely had the models. Now I just need to do what I had modeled better. Bridget, what is one thing you highlighted or noted as you read this chapter, and why did it strike you as important?
Do you really want me to do this? Okay. One of the things that I highlighted, I made a note, I made a list. Yeah. Let's not judge one another, and let's not judge ourselves. I am so judgmental, more of myself than of other people. I find that I judge myself harshly when I look at my home, or I look at how my children are, or my homemaking skills, or decorating, or whatever. But we really need to stop that, because that becomes more harmful than it does any good at all. It doesn't do you any good. Okay, most people, and I really like this one, most people could really care less about what your house looks like. Robert has an aunt. Oh, I said his name on air. He has an aunt, and she came by and seen me after my twins were born. And I was like a hot mess because I'd had a C-section, so my hair was all funky, and I'm pretty sure I looked funky, but whatever. And she came by to visit, and my house was a wreck because I just had these 2 newborn babies, and we weren't sleeping at night, and we had the 1-year-old also, and the 9-year-old. How old was he? He might have been 8. See? I tried to block that time period. Anyway. So she came over, and I had baby spit up on myself, and I had burping cloths laying in this one section, and a dirty sleeper in the other thing, and I was mortified. There were dirty diapers, not dirty diapers, dirty bottles on the sink, And I was like, as soon as she said she was coming, I started like running around trying to clean up everything. And when she got here, it was still not all completely done. And I just kept going, I'm so sorry about the mess. I'm so sorry about the mess. And she said, We didn't come to see the mess. We came to see you and the babies. That's all we cared about. Now, the only thing she did try to fix is I had my cabinet doors open, and she has a fetish with cabinet doors being closed. But other than that, she didn't try to clean anything else up. Okay, another one I have is it's our resistance to hospitality and allowing our fears to control us really an act of selfishness. Um, there are times when I tell my oldest son, who is a social butterfly, that I don't want people coming to my house. My house is what Mandy wants. It's like the neighborhood block hangout. I constantly have like revolving doors. Um, I like it sometimes, and sometimes I don't like it because sometimes I just want my peace and my quiet. I want to stay in my pajamas. I don't want to have to put a bra on, and I just want to relax and hang free. Literally, I just want to relax and hang free. And you can't do that when you have a house full of boys running in and out of your house. And you laugh, but it's true. And it's my selfishness. And so I'm working on embracing that more, but we're trying to work on a healthy balance of time that mommy can just relax in her PJs and time when we can let, I guess, my frat house continue on. I don't know what else you would call it. Okay. And then my last one, I promise, is my last one. Hospitality is an extension of our hearts. It, as a Southern person, we talk like we're so foreign, but as Southern women, we learn early on that you see us in the movies, you see us all smiling and talking all sweet and holding a glass of tea. But in all honesty, that's how we really are. We are happy people for the most part. And that is why we're so hospitable, is because we want you to feel comfortable and we want you to be happy. And I know for this Southern chick right here, if you are happy, that makes me happy. And that isn't that what we're supposed to be doing as followers of Christ? We're supposed to be wanting to make other people happy and wanting to make them feel loved. And if we are supposed to be doing that, then it's time to get off our tushes and be hospitable. So I'm going to put my bras on from now on and just be nice. Your turn, Mandy.
Well, the funny thing is that two of the quotes are the exact same, and usually I'm the one that has like six or eight quotes, and tonight I have three, and two of them are the same, but a little different takes on them. The first one was kind of from the very beginning of the book, and she says that we need to send perfection out the window. And her story about the grilled cheese, I had something similar happen lately. We had a silent auction at work, and I am known for being able to do recipes from scratch. I like to cook that way. It's just stress relief for me. Like, it's not like and I don't do it every night. But so I said I was going to make these two cakes, and they were these chocolate Hershey Dove chocolate bundt cakes, and with chocolate icing drizzled on them. Well, I make these bundt cakes, and I'm making them at 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night because I have church on Wednesday night. And I flip those bundt cakes over, and chunks come out of both of them. And I was devastated because I felt like, first of all, these cakes were not just being given to somebody or being eaten by my family, but I was trying to sell them. But the other thing was that the harder part was I knew somebody would buy them. Like, their chocolate goodness cake. I mean, who wouldn't buy chocolate goodness? But the bigger thing was that the way people perceived me was going to be out the window. It wasn't going to be a perfect cake. However, the person that did buy the cake said it tasted phenomenal. So perception is all in the eye of the beholder. But we really do need to send perfection out the window. I almost told the people that I wasn't going to have anything because I was so embarrassed by what I had made. And so, we really need to allow our perfectionism to go somewhere else and realize that we're not going to be perfect. If we're looking at the perfection scale, Jesus is perfect. So none of us are Jesus. So we're all going to fall short of perfection. Every last one of us are not perfect. There is no perfect mom. There is no perfect wife. Our kids are not perfect. None of us are perfect. And so I think the quicker we come to grips with that and say, you know what, it's not a mommy fail. It's not a I didn't do something right. It's, you know what, my heart was in the right place. I really tried. And realize that we just need to be available. The next one was, let's not judge one another. Let's not judge ourselves. Kind of the same thing. You know, I don't want to, and I'm guilty of this. I'm coming more from the let's not judge others. I'm real guilty of, well, you know, this is the way it's supposed to be done, and maybe some of that is my Southern upbringing, because I do expect everybody to do it the way that I do it, or to see it the way that I see it. And so I'm really trying to do better at not judging other people. And the last one is that hospitality is an extension of the heart. And yes, being Southern is like being from another country, I think, sometimes. But really, we are hospitable to the people that we love. You don't show true hospitality to people that you don't love and care about. And I learned that through the ways that people have shown hospitality to me. I've never been invited to somebody's home that I wanted to go to out of let them be showy about their house. Not my personal experience. I'm sure other people have. But my experience has always been that if I was invited to somebody's home, it was because they loved me and cared for me. And so, and they wanted to have me over for a meal or have my kids over to play or to chat. And so we need to remember that when we are being hospitable, be hospitable to the people you know are going to be kind to you. Don't invite the people over that are going to judge you. Guard your heart, guard your home, and when other people are being hospitable to you, guard their heart and guard their home, and don't go to look at their house or their kitchen or their dog or their kids. Go to be a blessing and to be blessed.
So, for once, I don't have a quote that either one of you had, which is very odd because usually we're all pretty the same. So, the one that really hit home for me was hospitality is our opportunity to be Jesus to those around us. That one really hit home for me because my husband isn't from a Christian family, so. And even though they live really close, we don't see them very often. And even though they're family, we don't see them very often. So it's something that he and I both have discussed and we've wanted to do better at. But it's something that I struggle with because I don't really have anything in common with them because of that really big difference in our lives. But it's something that I need to do because we do need to be Jesus to them. And not just to them, but they're, a really big part of our lives that we do need to show hospitality to so that we can be Jesus to them in our homes. There are lots of other people that we can do the same with, but that's immediately who I thought of when I read that quote. So why it struck me as important is because I really need to work on accepting my home the way it is and not worrying about what it looks like or what I think about it, and just be Jesus to the people that are in my home when we invite them over. So girls, do you guys have any last minute things you want to share? Bridget, Mandy?
I think I've been an open book tonight, so mine's going to be really short. There comes a point when we need to accept our faults, accept our shortcomings, and though we need to continue to try to work on them, we don't need to become fixated on them to the point that they keep us from reaching out to other individuals and being hospitable. I cannot say that word. Being hospitable and keeping people from coming into our homes or coming, and reaching outside of our homes. Um, Take time to just enjoy your families and take time to enjoy the people that God puts in your life because they're there for a reason. And that's going to be all I say. See, I told you I was going to be short tonight.
Well, maybe I'll make up for it a little bit. Um, the one thing that really kind of struck me in the book, and it wasn't really necessarily a quote as much as it was as a concept, and it's something that our family does. And I think when our family wrapped our heads around this, it really kind of set us free a little bit. Was that mealtime is supposed to be family time, and something our family has gotten away from a little bit with everything that's gone on in our lives in the past few months is that our breakfast times we get the pleasure of eating 2 meals together a day as a family. We try to eat breakfast together. And so because my kids go to public school and my husband goes to work and I go to work, we try to eat breakfast together. And so we would do prayer time and devotions in the morning. And so our meal times were always our family times. And then at night, we use our meal time as a time to share. And now we have a little bit of problematic eaters right now that don't always they like to do more of this and less of this. So we kind of try to save our conversation towards the end of the meal. But we play a little game called Good and Bad. And at the end of our meal, before they're dismissed or before they go do their thing or help clean up, and they tell us a good thing and a bad thing about their day. And that's been a really positive thing in our family because we hear a little bit about the kids' days. They're not fighting over each other. They learn to take turns and talk. And it really makes our mealtime more of a family time and a time to share. Another thing that I wanted to leave with is to set up boundaries in all areas of your life. If I have learned anything in the past month of my life, it's that I need more boundaries. And so when you're thinking, maybe you want to be a better decorator, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's a good thing to have a beautiful home. There's nothing wrong with that. But set a boundary, set a budget. Don't go above your means of time or money to do that. The same thing with cooking. My lifesavers are my crock pot and my Monday meal planning days. If I didn't have those two things, my cooking would probably be crazy, or we'd probably eat out a lot. And as far as inviting people over, we try to keep it on somewhat of a consistent once a month, once every couple weeks. We try not to do it like every weekend as far as full families. So set boundaries and don't know that those boundaries are there to protect and guard your family. And the last thing, and I know that Bridget said this a few minutes ago, but people come to your house to see you and not your house. If they're coming just because you have a great house, and I know some of us maybe have great swimming pools, or maybe your kids have an awesome trampoline, or something. There might be a physical pool. Maybe it's the swimming pool or the trampoline, or maybe you're an awesome cook and people just want to come over and eat your meals. But really, people are not coming over for those things. They're coming over to see you. And so make yourself available. I used to get real bad when I would have people over and I would spend my whole time cooking the meal and then cleaning up from the meal and then serving coffee and dessert and and trying to keep the kids quiet and all those things, and people never saw me. And so my husband had to tell me, you know what, the wives come to see you. They come to visit with you and not watch you run circles around them. And honestly, I think I was making them feel worse probably about themselves because I was so busy when they were there. If I would have just left the dirty dishes, they'll be there in the morning or later that night when they go home. If I would have just let the kids be loud, if I would just, they know how to, the Keurigs are wonderful. We all know how to use them. We don't have to be all those things. And so I think setting boundaries is really what Jill wanted us to learn, that we can have all of those things, and then we're all gifted different. I might be a great decorator, Misty might be a great cook, and Bridget might be very hospitable, but we all have different gifts and talents that are the better part of us, and so you don't have to be all three.
So I'm going to challenge you to be a yes mom. Let your kids have a play date. I've had 3, in the last week, and I survived them. And I even enjoyed one of them. I actually invited the mom to stay and hang out, and that was actually really nice. Um, so be a yes mom and let your kids have a play date. Don't clean the house. Leave it alone. It'll be okay. They probably won't notice. And become more hospitable to your family, your extended family, your husband's family, to people in your church, to your kids' friends, and be Jesus, because that's what we're here for. And that's who we need to talk about, who we need to share, and that's who we need to make sure people can see in us. And he definitely wouldn't have a closed door. So that's my challenge for you. So have a great week. We'll be back soon. Thanks for hanging with us and giving us a little bit of a break and understanding that families have challenges and times when we need to focus on them first. So have a great night. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.